Are we live?
We're live.
Good morning. It's So Together Tuesday. I'm Teresa Coates. Tava, you're going to have to take care of that yourself. In the middle of dual tasking here, trying to get everything done before the show starts. So I'm Teresa Coates. I'm the National Educator for Shannon Fabrics, and this is So Together Tuesday. It's our very last in-store So Together Tuesday. So we will continue this just to quell any fears that are happening there. Is that So Together Tuesday will continue. In fact, we'll be back next week with a big wrap up, but it's our last in-store, so that's kind of fun. We are at CaliQuiltCo in Rancho Cordova, and it is just by happenstance also the first store that we did a So Together Tuesday. So it's kind of funny that we're like bookending this whole on the road tour at a shop that we intended to start with it, but we didn't intend to end with it. And here we are anyway. So it feels like a lovely full circle thing. We're here, let's do this. So we are here again. I forgot, I need you to come up here, Tava. So we are, like I said, we're at CaliQuiltCo, and if you have heard of it before, which you might have, it's a very large store in Rancho Cordova, which is east of Sacramento, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And Tava is the owner. So this is Tava Singer. She's the owner of CaliQuiltCo. And we were talking about last night, you've been in business now for 11
and a half years, yes. We started online only and then had to open up because our customers were so awesome.
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
and I remember you talked about it, that you had started you started the company or started this like the store, the little online thing to kind of just get more fabric for yourself and maybe sell the extras, right?
Yeah, I just wanted to fund my habits.
Right,
So,
exactly. And I don't know if can you pop the camera up and around just to kind of show the scope of what we're dealing with now?
I'll give it a whirl. I'll try not to make everybody sick.
So you can see there's the cuddle wall way over there, which is a huge cuddle wall, and then just an enormous store. So to say that CaliQuiltCo has grown a lot in the last
we're gonna
decade
go back the other way.
is, you know, that might be an
trying
understatement.
to ruin our feed by doing that. So
all right. Oops, did we get stuck?
We're pretty stuck.
Okay.
Yeah. We're not going to do that again.
Yeah. Okay.
So
and we're back.
There we go. So we're back. So the website is CaliQuiltCo.com.
CaliQuiltCo.com.
Right. And you said you had a coupon code.
We do. The coupon code is going to be Jolly, JOLLY, and that will get you 20% off today only.
On Cuddle?
On Cuddle.
Okay. Make sure. So yeah, so you can shop at her website. Totally good. If you're in the area, if you are ever in Northern California, come to CaliQuiltCo because it's a super great place. They've got a ton of everything too. They have a incredibly large selection of Cuddle, which I will post pictures over on the I Love Cuddle page later.
What did we say? Like maybe 1,500 bolts?
1,500 SKUs.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
That's just of Cuddle.
Right.
Yeah. We have over 10,000 SKUs, but
yeah. So, you know, there is a selection. So if you're in Northern California, come by, come check it out, come check out their quilting cottons and of course all the other thread, and you've got machines. Oh, which reminds me, we're sewing on one of your machines today.
Yeah, so we're sewing on the Elna 720 Pro, and this is a Cuddle beast.
It is a beast.
It is a beast.
I am really excited to sew on it today.
Swinging around to look at it for a second.
And they can buy that through you if they give you a call.
Through us, and we have holiday specials and 0% financing. We have it all.
Great.
It's a great time of year to treat yourself.
Good. So we're going to put this one to the test today. I sewed on a little bit. She set it up for me last night and I sewed on a little bit and I was pretty amazed. So I texted her within about 5 minutes. I was like, all right, sold. I want one. So we're going to put it to the test today, see how it works. I'll show you the cool little features about it, what I know so far, and we'll make a Quillow. All right?
Wonderful.
Okay, great. So the beginner box we need to share. Sorry about that, Hawk. I forget these things so much, and I forgot I'm still wearing my little antlers.
Oh yeah.
Just going to keep them on the whole show.
Good.
So this is the beginner box, and we'll be giving one of these away to both a Facebook viewer and a YouTube viewer. So if you are watching, you can share the video today, and you'll be entered to win. So at the end, we'll draw a winner, and we'll give away 2 of those, one on each of those platforms. The beginner box is great. It's a yard each of solid print and Luxe Cuddle, and then it includes a pattern book that has 6 different patterns to learn how to work with the fabric so that you can learn how to make a pillow, a blanket, a scarf, toys like a little ball, a cube, all sorts of different stuff. So it teaches you all the skills of learning to work with Cuddle, maybe not all of them, but a lot of them, and is a great thing that can be found in quilt shops too. So all right, is that what we got?
We're good.
Right? Okay, it's hard to keep track of everything. So
what are we gonna make?
We are gonna make the Quillow. So Michael, if you want to pop up the ingredients list, that would be great. We'll talk about all the things that we need for that. So what you're gonna need is you're gonna need the Luxe Cuddle Quillow pattern, which is over on our website. You can also go to shannonfabrics.com/blog, and you will be able to find the pattern from the blog post about this show. Okay. You're also gonna need 4 yards of Luxe Cuddle, a 90-14 stretch needle, polyester thread, a marker of some sort, rotary cutter and mat, or a craft knife and mat. That's the Olfa SAC-1 that I like to use. Micro serrated scissors, long flower head pins, stiletto, of course, from the one by Annie. You'll need a hand sewing needle to tie it up at the end, or you can zigzag it shut if you want to, and a walking foot. Okay. So that's what you need to be able to do this. So what is a Quillow? For people who've been sewing for a long time, a Quillow is something that you already know about. It's a really cute little thing. You make a quilt, it becomes a pillow. It's a Quillow. It's very adorable. We have a throw that we're going to make into a pillow, but throw and pillow end with the same 2 letters. So we couldn't cram those 2 words together. It was still a throw. So we just call it a Quillow. So it is basically the same thing as you would do with a quilt, but we're going to do it with a Cuddle throw, which is really lovely. So the 4 yards we use end up making a slightly smaller throw. So if you're interested in a square one, this is how you'll get a square one too. But it's a super great little project. So this is my little sample. It's just a little pillow. But the cool thing is that it unwraps. Here we go, the unfurling. Okay. it unwraps. Here's my pillow. I go ahead and turn that out. And then I have a blanket. Just a big throw. Okay. So this one, here's the pocket. This one is Luxe Cuddle Heather Peppermint, I believe is what this color is, which I really love. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to make it in some other fabric, but that's how it works. And here's the little pocket. We were talking about you can put your little tootsies in there if your feet are cold, which I think is kind of lovely. Make sure you're wearing socks. Okay, all right. So we're going to put our blanket over there. We'll get back to it. I'll show you how to fold it back up there into a pillow when we're done with this one. Okay, so the first thing that we did is we cut things out. And because this is a larger one, I cut stuff out yesterday so that I would be ready to sew. So you're going to take that 4-yard piece, you're going to cut off 20 inches and then give yourself a 39 by 20 inch piece. Okay,
I'm going to interrupt for just a second. We have obviously I'm seeing in the comments that some folks over on Facebook cannot find a share button. If you comment in the comments, I can't find the share button, it counts.
Also, if you're watching from the I Love Cuddle group, you can't share because it's a private group. So if you want to share, you have to go over to the Shannon Fabrics page and view it from there, and you can share from there.
Okay? That makes sense.
Facebook, that's why. So we share it to the I Love Cuddle page sometimes. I'm not super great about always doing it. But if you share it from there, or if you are watching it from there, there is no share button because you can't share anything from I Love Cuddle because it's private. Okay.
Oh, like, so I was just going to give you guys the pass, and then here she comes with the answers.
I'm like, here, you should do the right thing.
Got it.
That's why. I know it is confusing, so that's why. So this fabric that we're using today is Forest Fox Winter Sky Luxe Cuddle, which I really love, the dark base to it. And it has, I don't know if it's ink necessarily, but it's, a dark navy color with the lighter, I don't know what that blue is. Bluebell, maybe it's kind of ish. Anyway, it's a very pretty blue. I really do like that.
Gorgeous, almost denim.
Yeah, kind of the denim-y color. So anyway, it's gorgeous. I really love it. That's what we're using today because it's a very fun one. And I wanted to. So this was the first thing I did is I cut. So here's my selvage. So I cut a 39 by 20 inch piece off that. So 20 inches. Then I cut a 39-inch piece. Then I had 20-inch scrap, which I've been using to practice sewing on this machine. Okay, so that's a little scrap for you, which we'll talk about later about what you can do with them too. All right, so I've got that first, and then I took the rest of my fabric, which is 20 inches short of 4 yards, folded that in half, found the middle, and cut it in half. So I have 2 equal pieces that are about 60 inches, and then I have a 20-inch piece that's 20 by 39. All of these measurements are in the pattern. I'm just reiterating them. So if you download the pattern from the blog, you'll be able to get all of this information, and it's in there. Okay, is everything all right there?
Everything's great.
Okay, good.
It does look a little like wood grain.
It does. It totally looks like wood grain.
Yeah, it's really lovely.
I really love it.
Like
this one comes
maybe
in a
like
whole
birch
bunch
bark.
of colors. There's one that's a green one too that I really love. I debated. I really did. I just can only pick one to do for the show, so this is what got picked. So the first thing we're going to do is take this piece, this 39-inch piece, and I'm going to fold it in half to create a seam here so that I end up with a square. Okay, so that's the first thing we're going to do. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put some of this stuff away. Oh, I wanted to show these rulers before we get too far because I'm going to have to move them out of my way. So this is my Olipfer ruler, which you can get. It's a 36-inch ruler. And this one they have this one here at the shop. It's a 24-inch. I'm sure if you asked her for the 36-inch, she would buy it for you, get it for you. So this one and this one create together 60 inches. So I will tell you, this is life-changing in cutting the width of fabric because these 2 rulers together equal 60 inches. So you can measure across the entire thing and get a straight line rather than taking 24 inches and trying to butt up 24 to 24. So if you've done that, I will tell you, this is a game changer. Get a 36-inch ruler and a 24. Suddenly you have 60 inches. Okay. Did that make sense, Hawk?
It did.
Okay, good.
Math.
I'm not always the best at it. That's me. I'm not always the best. Okay, so I've got my piece. I'm going to sew this side seam. The first thing I'm going to do is pin a corner. And then I'm going to pin a corner. Okay, and then I pin it in between. So because this is a lengthwise seam, there is no stretch here. Okay, the stretch is this direction. So this one I don't need to pin quite as much as I will when I'm pinning widthwise. Okay, I also will say that this machine sews it very, very well. And we probably won't pin too much at all. Let's see what will happen. You saw yesterday I did it without pinning at all. And
Well,
it totally worked.
That was with
That was some craziness.
the Beast?
No, that was with this one.
Got it.
Was this guy right here.
Well, that's what I meant.
Okay,
That.
well the Beast was the bigger one.
Oh, okay.
Because there is a like an enhanced version of this one that is the 790. And it's bigger and more expensive, but it does more stuff. So anyway, this is the one I used. We're going to use it again today. So I've got the machine set up over here. So this is a different interface than we've worked with before. We haven't worked with Elna machine, so it's kind of fun to try a new one. Yeah, so here's the brand. It's the Elna brand. Okay, here's the machine type. All right, and then if we come over here, here's my little screen that tells me what I'm doing. So I'm doing a straight stitch, and I'm going to move this up to a 3.5. Okay, so here's my stitch length. The 4.5 here, that can be confusing. That's actually just the center of this, where the needle placement is, because it's a 9mm wide. So I could do a 9mm wide zigzag. The middle of that is 4.5.
Okay, so that's center, 4.5 millimeters.
4.5 on this machine,
right,
is the center.
All right, you seriously started learning this machine last night?
Yes.
At like 8 o'clock. Yeah. So I'm impressed already.
I have a lot of experience with machines overall, so that helps. Okay, so we're going to go ahead. I'm going to see where the back stitch is. There it is. Do a little U-turn, come to the back. Now we're just going to sew forward. And I'm just so impressed with how well this walking foot works. So this walking foot has a really interesting thing, is that it has the like movie parts. It's a technical term. The movie parts are right in there. Okay, and you can watch it. See if we can get this to sew fairly straight while I'm watching it.
Oh, and you ran over a pin.
I hit a pin because I can't see you're in front of it.
I blame me.
It really is hard to see around the camera.
Silly camera.
See, you guys get the best view sometimes. That's what it is.
But I'll notice it didn't break the needle.
It didn't, and I just barely clunked it inside of it, so it's okay. All right, so now I'm going to cut my thread and pull that out. And look at how nice that is. That stitching, that was beautiful. Still so impressed.
Let's see the other side of that seam. Really?
Super straight.
Oh yeah,
it's great. It really just brings it through the machine so nicely.
Got it. Yeah, that was
yeah,
it's dead even on the back side too.
Super
Shockingly good.
Shockingly good. All right, so now I've got basically my pillow. So one of the things that we decided to do, clearly didn't shake that off well enough, is when we're putting the pillow on here. So let's move over here. You can just turn and watch. Look at this one. No, right here.
I'm coming. Here I come. We have a side table today.
We do. We have a side table because it's a big project. So one of the things is we want to get this pillow on here. And I realized that if we put the seam still on the side, you grab this. So this is going to be our pillow when we get it done. And if I put it on the side, when I do the stitching on here, I end up having 4 layers that I'm stitching through here. So I end up 5 layers of fabric, which is a lot. So we did something a little bit different in that we turned this so that it's down the center. Okay, so the seam is down the center, and on these sides we only have 2 thicknesses plus the blanket, so we have 3 thicknesses that we're sewing through instead of 5 on one side and 3 on the other. All right, so it's a little bit funky, works really, really well. All right, so come on back over.
That's a nice hack.
It was a good little change, and actually, no, I didn't show you when you were here. Sorry. That's right. This is actually the center seam right here, but because it's Luxe Cuddle, it's really hard to tell that there's actually a seam right here.
Yeah, I can't. I got nothing.
Yeah.
It's in there.
Yeah. That's the joy of Luxe Cuddle. All right. So first thing I'm going to do here before I flip this too far is I'm going to give it a pet. So if you remember right, the lengthwise of the fabric is the one that doesn't have stretch. It's also the one that has nap. So if I pet lengthwise on the fabric, I'll be able to figure out which way the nap is going. Okay. So I'm going to lay this out. So this is widthwise, this is lengthwise. The design goes lengthwise, and I'm going to pet it this way, and I'm going to pet it this way. And this is one of those weird ones where it's really hard to tell the difference. I'm going to say it goes this way. I always tell people, if you can't tell, it doesn't matter. Okay, so it doesn't matter if this is the top or the bottom, it'll basically be the same. What you do want to make sure that you're doing is getting the lengthwise of the nap and not trying to pet it this way, because widthwise will never make any difference. Okay, it's only up and down. All right, so now I know this is my top side. I'm going to do one other thing before I flip it, and that's what I'm going to put the seam on one side.
Okay.
And I'm going to put the fold on the other. I'm going to stick a little pin in my fold. Okay. So those are going to match. So I kind of held on to this one because my pins are both the same. And I know that this is my center fold and this is my center seam. And I'm going to line those up. So not critical, but it makes the seam in the middle is all I'm doing there. Okay. This other pin tells me that this is the top. So I'm going to go ahead and pin that. I'm going to do the same thing and pin it over here. Okay. All right, I'm going to put a couple little pins in here. And then we're going to see if this machine can do it. Let's give it a try. We're going to test this thing the whole time. So, you know, and by the end, I probably will have one in my shopping cart. Okay. I love testing out machines, though, because like they really do all sew very differently. And like there are some really good machines that don't sew cuddle as well as I would like it to. And this one is really fabulous in how well it sews the cuddle. I'm just kind of impressed.
It's a very unique design for the walking foot.
It really is. It's different than any of the other ones that I've seen. It's going. I'm just making sure that edge is like fairly matched. And we're running along basically at a 1/2 inch seam allowance.
I mean, you are pedal to the metal, and it is just.
Well, truthfully, not.
Okay.
This machine is, it has some oomph. So I'm definitely like halfway. Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't actually pedaled to the metal it. I might try later.
Okay.
But probably not with cuddle. Probably with the cotton. There we go. Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. All right. So now.
And we're still using the, I missed this if you said this, I apologize. You're still using the stretch needle. You're still
stretch
using
needle,
the
polyester thread, 9014 stretch needle,
Got
just like always. Yep, exactly. So then we're just going to pop this out.
Do we adjust the foot pressure on
this one it's down pretty low. So it's like at just above 1.
You know,
and it goes up to 3.
Yeah, whatever that means.
So that's what this is right here. This little knob right here adjusts your presser foot pressure, which is a super easy change to make that makes it flow through really nicely.
I like the manual.
I do too.
Buttons,
yeah.
Honestly, most of the time.
So here's my little
The record.
point and turner. Okay, little clover tool. And I'm just going to pop that out here. Get those corners. Come out really nicely. Okay, because my seam is in here and it's flat, so I don't need to trim any corners because it just goes flat down in there. I just need to make sure that it's actually pushed out as far as it can go. Okay, there we go. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to top stitch this. Okay, and for this one, we're going to plunk out some of these, especially since this thing works so well with the fabric. I'm just going to use some of these Wonder Clips. And I'm just going to make sure that this gets pulled up so that my seam is right at the very edge. So I'm just kind of wiggling the fabric to make sure that this is the seam, which I can still see fairly well because the fabric gets tucked in there, the fibers do. So I can kind of visually see it and I can feel it.
And these are the jumbo Wonder Clips.
And we're going to use this same clipping and pinning technique when we do the top stitching for the whole thing as well. So I like to do the big jumbo clips in the middle or between, and then I do the pins in the middle. Okay, so the big jumbo clips sit along the edge. They hold it down really well. We're just going to top stitch this so that it kind of matches the blanket later. But we're going to do it now while we've got it. All right, so I need it at about 1 inch. There's a 1/2, 3/4, there's 1 inch. Okay, so I'm going to stick it in there. Do a little lock stitch. So that's what this little guy is, a little lock stitch, so I don't have to back stitch. Since it's on the outside, I kind of want it to look nicer. I'm also going to go ahead and up my stitch length to a 4 for the top stitching. All right.
So far, we have not needed the stiletto with this machine. That is true. We're going to
Yeah.
put it through its paces.
I am.
Nobody panic.
Right. Okay. We're just going to stitch right along here, all the way across. Okay. I will say this morning when I wanted to do a little quick test before the show started, and I sewed on it, and it pushed the fabric, and I couldn't figure out why. And then I realized that I hadn't actually engaged these walking feet. So you can sew without the walking feet engaged, which isn't a good idea. It was a bad idea.
Oh, with the walking foot installed, but then it wasn't actually
It wasn't
locked
engaged.
on.
So the little feet part weren't actually walking. And
Got
that's
it.
why it pushed a little bit. So once we got that fixed, it was totally fine and hasn't pushed at all. Okay. So I'm gonna get those back. I'm gonna go ahead and trim off my thread. Use my little Karen K. Buckley micro serrated, which I like an awful lot. All right, so now we can pull out the stiletto. Now we need it.
Awesome.
We're gonna go ahead and we're just gonna fluff up these seams right along the top here. And get all those fibers up and out, make it look really nice along the top. And because this is one of those fabrics where the naps kind of go in a million different ways, it is really easy to fluff up and get it to hide. But the entire side won't look exactly the same because sometimes the nap's going up and sometimes it's going down. All right. So I just take the stiletto here and just kind of scratch it along the edge. And fluff that all up. All right. Now it's totally fine. So then I've got, this is my seam down the middle. I'm gonna do the same thing. Kind of scratch up those fibers, get that seam to really hide in there so that no one will be any wiser. This is actually the back seam when it's on the blanket. All right, here we go. Okay, so now the pillow part is done. See how easy that was? Okay, let me put my pins back. All right, so now you can come around to the front.
This fabric is the exact same color as your Olfa mat.
It kind of is.
It's trying to disappear.
That's pretty funny. I just color coordinated today. That's what I was doing. Oops, I'm throwing pins on the floor. I'm wearing shoes today, though, so it's okay. I'm not going to panic.
I did notice that, but I wasn't going to mention it.
Well, it's gotten cold. So I will say that December, even in California, is a little chilly for sandals, which is my preferred mode of sewing, is with my sandals. But
well, where they'll just come off and on really easy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Okay, so now I've got two pieces here that are square. So I'm going to try to hold it up just a little bit for you, just so you can see this is what I've got, is two pieces square.
There was the remainder that you folded in half and cut,
Exactly.
so that they would be exactly the same size.
So I folded them in half. I marked the half mark on either side. I lined up those rulers all the way across and then just drew my line. It's great. Okay. So that's what you want, is like the tools will make a huge difference in how easy it is to sew the fabric, the tools that you use. Okay, so this one I can pet it and I can feel this is my top.
And you only top stitched the one side of
I did.
the pillow part. Got it.
And that was the top of the pillow.
Right.
Okay, so the bottom I left blank. You can baste it if you want to baste it shut first. So seal that together and then we're going to sew it to the blanket. Okay, so this is my top. I'm going to put this one away. So this is the top of the, well, I guess it was the back of the blanket, but this is the upper edge of my blanket. And then I need to go down to my bottom edge. And I still left the selvages on. I don't cut them off. Okay, selvages stay on there. They're just going to go in the seam allowance. It's totally fine. So now I need to find the center. I'm just going to fold it in half. And I will tell you that when you're trying to fold this stuff and hold it, one of the things that happens is you pinch it with this hand and then you try to manipulate it with this hand, and then this ends up moving. So that's just the nature of this. So what I'm going to do, instead of trying to hold it really hard with my fingers, I'm just going to stick a pin in there and let it do the hard work. And then I can work my way across here and find the center. Okay, so kind of relying on those pins to do some of the work for you is actually a really good idea. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lay this out. I'm going to try to lay it out so that I can get it on the table and still have my 20-inch pillow on the table. I'm going to take this pin out too. That was it's the top pin, but now I know which one is the top because I'm down at the bottom. Okay. All right. So this is the bottom center that I've got marked here. So now I need to take my pillow that I did. Okay. This is the pillow, and I know that this is the center. And I probably should have marked those centers. I'm going to go ahead and do this. Here's my center of the pillow. And I'm going to get that to come over and match the seam. There we go. So now we know the centers actually match. All right. Did that make sense?
It did.
Okay, good.
Yep.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead. I am going to base this because then I won't have to worry about it because they'll want to move a little bit. They'll shift between themselves, and I don't want that to happen. So we're just going to clip this and see if that works. So you could do this with a straight stitch or with a zigzag stitch.
So this is the bottom of the foot pocket.
This is the bottom of the pocket. Yep, exactly. Right. I'm gonna lay that
I called
out.
it a foot pocket.
You did.
Whoops.
Not everyone wants to use it as a foot pocket, and that's okay. Okay. So there's a little push that's happening there that I'm trying to figure out how to get that to not happen. Okay. That seems better. Okay, so I pinned it at that edge. Now I'm going to switch it. Let's see if I know how to do this. We're going to switch it over to a zigzag, which is going to be the 5. Yep. So it's now a zigzag, and right now it's at 3 wide and 1.5 long. So that's a tiny zigzag in comparison to what I want. Oh, it won't go any wider on that foot, maybe. Got it. Might need a different plate. So that's fine. So I'm going to do it at the 3. And a 3, and that'll do a big zigzag that I can get it to go all the way across here quickly, because that's really half the battle, is just getting it to go across the fabric faster. That's really why I choose the bigger stitches a lot of times, is because it's quicker than the tiny stitches. It also doesn't actually do it at the same size when you're dealing with cuddle versus cotton. So the sizes don't mean quite the same thing. Okay, so we're just going to zigzag this close. So all I'm doing is trying to get this to become one like solid piece. Now it's not going to shift on me at all because it's basted. Okay.
All right.
So now I can find which side has the seam. There it is. It's crazy. So can you tell?
Nope.
It's this side, but you really can't tell. Okay, so I'm going to put that on the outside so that when it flips around, it becomes a pillow. Everybody just saw my fabric just fell off the side. And now I'm like, is it going to fall completely off the table? Everybody who's sewn with Cuddle knows exactly what that means. We're in trouble. Okay.
Oh, there it goes.
Keep it all on the table.
I see it trying to move.
Keep it all on the table. Stay stable, guys.
Oh, now we're going to break the mug. That's what's happening. Put the mug in danger.
That's right. I'm sorry. I did.
I'm in danger.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead. So what I did was I found my seam and I connected that with the pin that I had that marked my center bottom. So I got the center and the center to match, and then I'm just going to lay this across here. I'm going to go ahead and pin. Okay, and I'm just going to pin a few times here, make sure it stays in place where I want it to be. Okay.
And you were concerned about which direction those pins were going so that when you sew, they pull out easily.
Yes, exactly. So I pinned it so that the head is over here and the tip is over here. So when I sew this seam, I can take the pins out easily. That's exactly right. Okay, so then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pin it on the rest of the way. So what I'm really going to do is I'm going to sew it down here across and back up this other side and get it all nice and secure on the blanket itself. So this part is really kind of up to you how you want to do this. Sorry. Move this carefully over so I can see. I'm gonna put my weight back on there.
All right, I'm not nervous.
Yeah.
Not
Are you
nervous at
saying
all.
that to make yourself feel better? Okay. So then I'm going to get this to go straight up the side here. And I'm actually going to put the pins in this direction so I can kind of see them better, because they get hidden in the nap really well this way. And I want to be able to see that this isn't moving at all. I also trust this machine's foot pretty well. If you were doing this otherwise, you could go ahead and pin in between here. And I know a lot of people pin this direction, where they'll pin some vertical and some parallel, like, or perpendicular and parallel. Okay. So you can do that too to hold it in place a little bit better. I'll just go ahead and do it there. And then we're going to do the other side. So this is when you need a bigger table than just your 18 by 36 mat. Just so you know, it'll work easier for you if you want a bigger table. Okay. I just tried to pin the pattern to it. Let's see if we can make that not happen.
It's under there somewhere.
It's under, I can feel it like.
I think I heard the pin go through the paper. Yeah. Wah, wah.
I have definitely sewn things to the back of projects, so this would not be the first time. There we go. Okay. It's free. All right, so then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pin up the side here, just like I did on the other one, make sure that it stays where I want it to. And I'm going to switch it. I'm going to switch it over to a straight stitch on this one and see what happens. So on the other one, I did a zigzag.
On the sample?
I liked that, but I did have to go back over it again and catch the edge one more time, because it was really easy to not quite catch the edge, because the edge is very hard to see here.
Right.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and move these.
The incredible disappearing seam line.
Yes. The joy of the Luxe Cuddle is that it hides everything, but also it hides everything. Okay. We're going to go ahead and lift that foot up.
And we're going to talk about this while we're here at this machine. Look at the size of that throat. And this isn't even the big one.
This isn't even the big boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of room over there.
Pretty great. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a little straight stitch along the edge, and then I'm going to try to fluff it up. And I think I might actually go around it twice too, just because this is going to get a lot of tugging by putting things in. So if I go around this twice, it'll kind of strengthen that edge, so that when I shove the pillow in there, or the blanket all in there, and it becomes a pillow, it isn't going to pop these seams. So I really don't want to have to go back and fix this, because that will be hand sewing later.
I feel like almost immediately I'm going to put my feet in this and then like try to run around the house and
try
to just
to
do
jump
the shuffle.
in it.
Do the shuffle. Yeah.
Yeah. That would be you. Yes. Okay. So let's go ahead and switch it back. Oops. Switch it back to a straight stitch. We're going to bump it up to a 3.5. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put where I think the edge is. Okay. I feel it right here. And I'm going to put that along the line of the foot right here. And that's what I'm going to aim for. That's all I'm doing. I'm just aiming for it. We'll see what happens. Hope for the best. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lock stitch that. Okay. And then I'm just going to stitch right along here. If I get it to go. There we go. What are you laughing about?
Somebody wanted to know if I had cold feet. And it's like, honestly, it's probably quite the contrary. I'm more like hot-footed hawk.
That's true. Can you use a double needle to sew it? You could.
I was
if you wanted to switch that out. Yeah. So somebody asked here in the audience if you could use a double needle for it, and it would do 2 rows of stitching just at the same time. Absolutely. And that just requires you to have 2 spools of thread with the same thing. Okay. Hold on. I got to get my fabric up on the table. Do you see it all falling off over there? This is where you'll start squirming, because it's just so frustrating that it just keeps going. So I could feel the weight of it wanting it to take it that way. So if I just stop it now, it's not going to be a problem. So you'll notice sometimes, like, I can feel this here. So the edge of the nap is here, but the edge of the fabric is back here. And so I'll do this where I can feel it, make sure it's kind of in the right spot, and go, and like right here, I can feel it underneath my finger, so I know what to aim for, which is kind of a weird way of sewing, but that's what works. There's a lot of things about this that are a weird way of sewing. Okay, so I'm gonna pop that up. There's probably a way to get that to just do that automatically, but as you said, me and this machine, we just met last night. We're not well acquainted yet, but soon.
Fascinating. Can you talk briefly about the clover head pin colors on the heads? Somebody asked a good question about that.
Yep. So the pins that you see there, those green heart ones, are medium weight ones.
And they have two colors, right? They have a light green and a dark green.
And so is this one. This one is the one that is dark red and peach. They are really hard to pick up on here. So there we go.
Got it. So those are both medium weight, and those are good for cuddle.
These are good for cuddle. The ones that I actually prefer the most are these guys, which are the same on both sides. That's how you know the difference. These are the heavyweight. I'll show you the bend thing. So these don't really bend. This one is a medium weight, and it will bend quite a lot. Okay.
And then there's another version of flower head pins, which are the lightweight ones.
Which I don't
think you have.
I think I have one. Nope.
Not today.
Not today.
Because honestly, they don't really do you any good.
They don't do me any good except to show people. Yeah. The blue ones are the ones you want to use for satin, or like if you were doing a lining on something like the silky lining, you would want to use that because it makes a smaller hole and it's very easy to get it in and out of that fabric. With the cuddle, you want to use the heavier weight pins just because it holds the fabric so much better, and they just slip in really easily. So that makes it much, much better. But I do find that the heavier weight ones are a little better, especially if you're going to be doing a variety of projects like strip quilts and that sort of thing. Those are much heavier and better for those. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pop my foot up, spin this around, and still manage to keep my fabric over there on the table. And then we're going to do it again. I'm going to find my edge of my fabric is here. So the nap is here. The nap is clear over here, and here's the edge of my fabric. So I really am just kind of sewing by feel. Like a lot of times I call it blind sewing because I'm really I can't see what I'm doing, really. But I am thinking about it and trying to feel where I'm at with it. So make sure that I'm going in the right direction. Just going to plow along here until we get to the next pin. Take it out. Get this. It's just a big pile of fabric. Huh?
Anybody
what part is what?
Do you have a guess on how heavy a finished Quillow is?
Well, it would be however much a yard is, and you can find the weight actually on shannonfabrics.com. If you go to the fabric, it'll tell you what the weight is per yard. Multiply that by 4. I can't tell you what that is, but I can tell you how to make that math happen.
Awesome.
It is in
That's
grams,
good to know.
but you know, Google will help you figure out what that is in pounds.
A little metric conversion will get you back to pounds.
Exactly.
Which it is more than a pound. Let's just say that.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to keep the needle in. So I did not backstitch here. I'm going to keep the needle in. I'm going to do a little twist here, and I'm going to do basically like the same sort of what do you call it? The making it stronger right there. Reinforcement. So I'm going to do a little bit of reinforcement here. I stitched forward. I'm going to do 3 stitches.
So this is right at the edge of the corner of the opening.
Here's my pocket.
Got it.
So I stitched over just a little bit. Then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stitch back around. We're just going to feed this through that big old throat. Okay. And I'm going to aim back toward over here and make a little triangle up there at the top. I'm not measuring how big that is. I don't really care. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stitch back the same way. So here's my edge again, and I'm just going to kind of make sure that I'm on there.
You don't have to pin now because it's already down. You basically basted it.
Right. Yeah.
But that doesn't make it any easier to see.
It doesn't make it any easier to see. Nope. I can kind of see where my edge is. But once I come back in here and fluff it up, it'll be totally impossible to see. So all this is doing really is just making sure that that pocket is going to stay on and that you don't ever have to go back and re-sew it, because we're sewing it just to one layer of the throw, which means that the other layer will be free. So to re-sew it back on, you'd have to sew through both layers. Did that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. I felt like you made it sound like I was confusing again.
Nope, that wasn't a sound.
That wasn't the sound.
That was me trying to read.
Got it.
Sorry.
Okay.
I apologize. Apparently,
is
I read with my
A-okay.
mouth.
Yeah, it happens. All right. Somebody asked if there was an advantage to not sewing it through both layers. It's really so that you don't have a big square on both sides. That's all. So it looks better, is my personal opinion.
Though I suppose if you already
could.
had a throw, you could add the
That's
pillow,
what you did, right, Judy?
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Judy was we were talking about the Quillow earlier, and she was saying she added a pocket for your brother. Is that what it was? Who wanted a little pocket on the bottom of his throw. So you absolutely could just make a pocket and sew it onto the bottom one of your throws. So the thing with making it a Quillow is that it, like the folding of it, like it needs to be certain measurements to make it fold up nicely. But honestly, I think you could probably just, wad it in there too. It'd be fine.
You could wing it.
You could wing it. Yeah. I feel that's a little funky right there. I want to get it flat. Okay. So I'm gonna come up here. And I'm just trying to keep all of this fabric up. So if you can kind of back up, you can see here, and I see how it comes underneath the table over here. Like trying to keep it all on the table is really, it's important because it makes it so much easier to be able to sew this stuff. So now that I'm up here, I'm going to come back over and I'm going to do this little triangle. So don't go anywhere yet. Okay. So I'm going to come back over and make another triangle at this corner. So this is like they do on pockets of your jeans and stuff like that. And it just gives it a little bit extra strength. Okay, let me go ahead and sew back over there. And that's when I'll do my other little lock stitch and call it good. Okay. All right. So now the pocket is on there. The pocket is very secure. So it's secured across the bottom and the sides twice. Okay. And up here as well. Go ahead and clip that. Oops. All right. So now the pocket is on there real good. So even if you got a kid who's going to tug and pull and do all sorts of stuff on it, it's got 2 layers of stitching and then that little triangle here to give it extra strength.
Kid.
Yeah. Yes. Or a man in your life who likes to act like one. Okay. So now we just put this together like a regular old throw.
Pardon me, guys.
Okay.
So can you briefly, because this is a this is a new machine. We have some questions about it's a walking foot, but it's specific to Elna, which is this machine.
Yes.
Does it have a name?
The walking
foot itself.
Even, it's the even feed walking foot. Yeah. So if you come around to the back and you can show this. So it has the little feet. So it's kind of like a mix of walking foot and even feed because it has the little these little parts down here are your
I'm not sure I can get in there.
That's okay, but if you can just show where I'm pointing, these are your grippy bits.
Yep.
Okay. And then back here, if we come back behind the foot, so this kind of looks like a normal walking foot. And then back here, there's a little thing that comes in and engages. And those actually do this whole thing. So it doesn't use your needle screw like traditional walking foots do.
Can you run that for a second without fabric in it from while I'm back here?
I would rather stick a piece of fabric in it. Hold on. Because I got fabric just waiting. Look at that.
That's pretty magic.
It's pretty magical. Okay. So that's how that works. Yeah, it's pretty great.
I almost did the splits.
Oh, that would have been exciting. Glad you did not.
The floor was a little slippery just now.
So sorry, that was probably cuddle dust. Okay, so I want to make sure I'm doing this right. Yes. Okay. So now we're going to sew these together, the front and the back. I realize I'm still wearing my antlers. Merry Christmas, guys. It's December. Also the end of this craziness, so it'll be a little goofier. All right. So here is, we're going to take this over the table because it's going to be a lot easier.
All right.
Okay. Because this is really how you should be doing it if you are working on something this big.
Hey, Tava, we have some questions for later, maybe about the patterns for the stuff on the back wall, like that tree skirt and what's going on with this guy. Okay. Can you have those answers on deck? Yes. Cool.
Can you tell if they're coming through Facebook?
Yeah, I think they were Facebook
Okay.
comments.
And
That
that's an
was
easy
actually,
enough
I
one.
kind of was holding that in my head from like, you know, at the beginning of the show.
Okay.
But
Yeah, because she put a bunch of stuff up here. This is the cute little poncho that we did, I don't know, a month ago or so. And
mhm.
Lindsay, you taught that one here, right? Yeah. So this is a class that we teach, Shannon Fabrics teaches, and Lindsay taught it through here. This is a great project. So we do have a tutorial for that one. Okay, so here is the part that I did. So this is one side of my throw, and this is the pocket that's stuck on here, okay? So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to see if I can figure out if there's a top and bottom of this one. Yep, that's my top. So I go ahead and, so I just kept the top toward the top. I'm going to throw it up there. So these are right sides together. Of anything I can say about making throws in general is that doing them on a table this size is really important. Do it big enough. Have two tables that you can put together that you can lay the whole thing out. It's really important to be able to get as much space as possible. When we do them in classes, a lot of times we end up tag teaming them. So we kind of work through them, but it's important to be able to do that. Okay. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do, actually I'm going to do this with a pen, is I'm going to mark a hole. So a lot of times we put a hole on the bottom, but if you put a hole on the side of the blanket, there's no stretch here, so it doesn't cause this to curl. So we've been doing them more on the side more and more, and I usually leave a turning hole that's the size of my hand. But what I found is if you do it only the width of your fingers, you can't get this blanket out. So do it like the full width of your hand. All right. Because one of the big struggles is getting it back turned through. Okay. So I'm going to move these pins for just a second. We're going to actually come back over and sew and then bring it back. Because what I had to do is lay them together so I can make this match. So then my turning hole, it matches, it mirrors on both sides.
Got
okay,
it.
so that was the process
right on
here.
the selvage.
Right on the selvage. So I'm just going to take this one at a time, sew it, and bring it back. So I'm going to fold this over there. So it kind of stays in the direction I want it to. Okay. So now,
what's the finished size on this blanket again?
It's about 58 by 58.
Got it. So with the fabric by
with the fabric with the seam allowance.
Yes, 2 yards.
Yep. Well, it's a little more.
Ish.
It's a
other
little
way.
bit less than 2 yards.
Right.
So yeah, because 2 yards would be 72.
Okay. No, I meant the other way. Sorry. Nope. You're right. I'm wrong. Math.
Still, no matter which
Still-
way you do 2 yards, it's still
just-
72 inches.
Just
Yeah.
60 inches. Got it. Okay. Wah, wah.
It's okay. It's about 60 inches square, really. Okay, with the seam allowance. So now I'm just going to stitch. It's okay. I'm just going to stitch down here along the selvage end where my seam allowance is going to be, and I'm just going to stitch it just a single layer at a time. Okay. I'm not back stitching. I'm not doing anything fancy there. Okay. So now I lay that back down. My pocket at the bottom.
Okay. There we go.
And now I kind of know where my edge is. So now I picked up the other one, and because I'd folded it over, I know my edge is down here. There it is, where I had stuck my little marks. But I'm going to go ahead and sew that. Okay. So what this does is we use this in a lot of patterns. So you'll notice we call it you stay stitch. The turning gap is what we're doing here. So if you see that in a pattern, that's exactly what we're doing, is stay stitching the turning gap. And that makes it so that the turning gap isn't going to stretch, which is usually what stay stitching is for, but it also really just gives us a really nice guideline for when we do our hand stitching at the end to get that closed. Because now we know exactly where the 1/2 inch seam allowance is. Okay, that's the biggest. Oh, did our antlers got entangled there?
Our antlers are interacting. Hang on. Ready, everybody?
All right.
This is a silly episode.
It is, but we might as well have fun with it. It's a last. All right, so now I can get these two together. All right, so I'm going to get these to lay together, and we're just going to sew a little bit of this to show you how to do it. Okay. So one of the things I want to do, I'm going to come back behind you here and kind of watch that, is that I'm going to lay this out so that I can get the whole length of this side. Because one of the things that is really important when you're sewing this is we've measured it. We measured it so that it was cut in half. So we need to keep the ends matching. So the first thing I'm going to do is pin an end. Okay, so I've got my two ends are matching here. I'm going to go ahead and pin at the angle because that holds it a little better. And then I'm going to work my way over here to this corner and do the same thing. Okay, so now this is where you can get with a friend to pull it with you, or like a lot of times what I would do when I had a studio is I would put a weight here and then kind of tug at the other end, make sure everything matches. Okay.
That was interesting. I've seen you do that before. What did you just do? Yeah.
It just moves it over just the tiniest little bit.
I think that's a great technique.
Get it to match up. Okay, so I'm going to start here. I'm going to put a pin in where my stitching started and where it stopped. So between the stay stitching. Then I'd put 2 pins in here because I know that this makes me recognize that that's a start stop. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and stick some other pins in here along the side. And I'm going to do the outside, the edge against the selvage first. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pin a second row back behind that to hold it a little bit better. All right. So you can do this a couple of different ways. You can do an entire side at a time, or you could do a side and a half, 2 sides. Really, I prefer to do them one side at a time. But I'm not going to sew the whole thing. We're not doing too bad on time.
So you definitely choose to do the, well, in this case, the selvage edges, but like the fabrics and sides first.
I generally do the selvage first. It's kind of like something I've figured out over the while, is that the selvage is easy because it doesn't shift so much. So it's easier to sew that first. And if I know my length is the same, I can do that. The thing about doing a throw with the fabric the same on both sides is, your width is the same as well. So that's, you can sew that too. But I do find that sewing the width first is a little harder because the width is a little wiggly. So, because it's stretchy.
Got it.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and stick some more pins in here up this side. Make sure it stays all even. Then we're going to do we'll sew this and then we'll sew the bottom side too. So we're just going to sew 2 of the sides today. And then probably after the show, I'll finish it so I can have a blanket. Because this is a good one. I actually really like this project.
Here's a fun question.
Okay.
Make sure I get this right, I want to read it. I was told years ago always to use a stretch stitch when sewing fleece or minky or knit fabrics in general. Is that not true in today's sewing world?
You know what I just did? So pin this all backwards. Sorry. Guess what, students? You're not the only one. That's so funny. So yes, generally when you're sewing with knits, you're going to use a stretch stitch. Okay. When you're sewing with the Cuddle, we don't use a stretch stitch. We just use the straight stitch, and that's because we're using the polyester thread. Oops. So the polyester thread will actually stretch a little bit. If you're using a cotton thread, it won't stretch at all, and you have to use a stretch stitch or it'll immediately pop, basically, because the cotton has no stretch. So you need to use a a thread that also has some stretch. So if you're using a knit for like a shirt or a swimsuit, leggings, you're going to want to use a stretch stitch. With the minky, because we're not actually stretching it, we don't need that stretch stitch. We just need the fabric not to pop. So we use a polyester thread and it works great. Okay.
All right.
Did that answer it?
I think so.
Okay. All right. I'm going to put my pin cushion over there. All right. So now I'm sewing down that side seam is what I'm doing.
Pat, you're forgiven. She accidentally touched the angry face.
Oh,
she didn't mean that.
Thanks for letting me know, because sometimes I notice those angry faces and I'm like, what did I do that made them mad? I don't understand.
We actually think that every angry face on our show is an accident.
You think that it is. I always think, what did I do? Why are they mad at me? I just made a stocking. I just made a blanket. Like, were they mad that I messed that up? Yeah, I think probably much of the time it is actually just an oops. All right, so now I'm coming up here on my double pins, which weirdly I got color coordinated. Did not intend to. Okay, I'm gonna come up here to where my needles or my pins are. I'm gonna come up, I'm gonna stop, I'm gonna back stitch if I can find it. There it is. Just a couple little stitches and then forward a couple stitches just to secure that a little bit extra. It's not a have to, but I like to do it. I'm going to go ahead and turn this so that it's 90 degrees from where it was and sew off the edge. So the reason that we do this is because it will help to turn better later. So I'll show you in just a second. It keeps those seam allowances together.
We kind of call this the L bracket technique.
Yep, or an L pivot. It's often called in the patterns, and that's exactly what we're talking about here.
It seems like extra work, but it shows up later as being super helpful.
It really does. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my needle down, sew off the edge, and then I just back stitch. So these are not secured in the same way at all, but I'm just really back stitching because that's easier. Okay, so then I'm get back to where I started.
Back to the half inch.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Ish. Yeah. Make sure that that's nice and flat again, and then just start sewing. And we're just going to sew up this whole side. So these pins that are here, this is one of the reasons that I really love the flat flower head pins, is because I can leave this pin here, and I didn't turn it around. So this is why we want to turn them around, because I would have to take this out way earlier. So I can actually leave this pin in and let it slide right underneath the foot. So this pin, I can leave it in until I'm closer to it, and then I'll take it out. If I had left it pinned the other way, I would have had to take it out a long time ago, because we can't get that close to it. Okay.
And this is why the needle direction is important, and the sort of thinking ahead to which direction you're going to sew.
Right, the way that we
is important.
Yes, the way that we put the pins in makes a difference, and it really is just for ease of sewing. A lot of times oh shoot.
So
sorry.
I saw it going and I couldn't stop it.
That was a lot.
We've got a man down.
Wow,
well,
man down,
man,
light down.
I mean, like, goodness gracious.
Okay, we could probably put it to the side. It probably would be hard to get back on.
Never happened in a year and a half of the show. Very exciting. We lost a light.
My heart is still going, but I'm just gonna keep sewing. Just keep sewing. Oh my goodness, that was a lot. That was pretty crazy.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you, Lindsay.
There used to be you guys see me in the back, there used to be a light. A nice, expensive studio light.
Yeah.
There. And it decided it didn't want to hang out anymore.
Right. But it was still on when it hit the ground.
It was actually.
Like,
so that's a daylight studio.
Yep.
It'll
it'll take a beating and keep on lighting. I don't know. Yeah. That was crazy. Okay. So this is slightly longer here, and I knew that, and I was kind of hoping I could ease it in, but I didn't. So, you know what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let it go. Okay, and there's a song about that, and we're not singing it, Hawk. Okay.
I got nothing.
Just going to get it flat. Okay.
Everybody's pretty impressed about your lack of expletive.
It was. I'm really impressed with myself too. Okay. So you can see like it's about an 1/8 of an inch maybe difference up here. There's just a tiny bit extra. And what I'm going to do when I do this top is just ease it in. Okay. Be totally fine. No worries. Do not ever think that you have to take something like that out. All right. So now I'm going to take my pins out and we're going to do this again, hopefully without the light falling.
Or without the light.
Without the light, period. All right, so let's go back over to the table. All right, so I'm going to sew the second edge of it. We're just going to do 2 of these, basically, so we can see how it goes. So one of the things when you're doing the throws is we sewed this seam first, and I always want to go over a seam when I'm sewing it. And I don't want to sew this seam because this would all have to be in my throat, which sounds horrible. if I did it like this, but what I can do is flip it over and I'll pin it from this side and I can sew it here, okay? So I always kind of have to take a minute and think about which way I want to sew this before I actually start sewing. Hold on. All right, and one of the other things is we want to make sure that the edge here, actually, if you come around here, Hawk, this will show a really good thing. So this happens in the throws a lot. So if you get down here, you see how this is bubbled over there?
Kind of.
You see what I'm talking about underneath?
Yeah, yeah.
That it's not flat?
Yes.
That happens a lot. Now do me a favor, pinch it with your hand there. Pinch just the seam allowance. I'm going to give it a little tug. Okay, that'll flatten it right out again.
Okay.
That happens a lot.
And that's some of that's because the nap is trying to interact.
Probably.
Right?
I haven't gotten too specific about why it happens. It just does.
It does. Okay.
It just does. And if you don't fix it, you'll have a little pucker there. And that's not what we want. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a pin in. Hold on, don't move anywhere yet. And I'm going to put a pin because we got that flat. I want it to stay flat. And now I'm going to go ahead and twist this so that I can put the whole seam down my table again. So if I work on one edge at a time, I can use a table this size that I can get one edge out. I don't have to get the entire thing out as long as I know that they actually match. Okay, and because this is the same on both sides, same fabric, it's the same width. So I know that each end will match because they are the same fabric, cut from the same cut of fabric, like it was originally just one 4-yard cut. And then I've now made it into 2 matching ones. So the end, the center. And now along the edge. Okay. And I'm going to do the same double pinning thing. We do along the edge. We're doing up here.
We're going the right way this time.
We're going the right way this time. I fixed it. Make sure that those stay nice and even. Because one of the things that happens is if I just pin from this end over, no matter how hard I try, when I get over to the other end, it will have grown. And it is just part of how it works. So don't blame yourself when that happens. Just remember to pin and then kind of subdivide
right.
it and pin it.
Yeah, pinning from one end to the other doesn't actually work.
It doesn't actually work. And it's just because of the knit fabric.
Finding the halves is always.
Yeah. It's because it's knit and because it's plush. And that even when you're not trying to, when you flatten it, a lot of times you actually stretch it just the tiniest bit. Even when you're trying really hard not to. And like I said, it happens to me. So you know that it can happen to you too. Gotta get that back in place. My pin popped out. Okay. So normally I will tell you that if you're right-handed, you should pin further away from you because we're sewing on a flat table and the further away from me is really difficult. If you were doing this on a big table where you can get it up in the air a little bit, you know, like my high table, it works better. Oh, there's another pin. Sorry. I ran out of pins and I was like, dang it. And I'm like, oh, wait, there's more.
Sorry, guys.
All right, so let's go over here. All right. So again, all up on the table. Okay, so if you have a big table that you can sew on, it's a lot easier, like the dining room table, big 6-foot table. Throws are great, but they are definitely a lot of fabric.
There's some wrestling involved.
There is some wrestling.
Don't really want a lap full of pins either.
No, exactly. So all of this, you can see all of this is on the table now, and I would just kind of work my way through it a little bit at a time. All right. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start before the seam line from before because I want it to cross over. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to actually do a little back stitch right there just to secure, make sure it's all good. And then we're just going to sew along here. At the very end, we'll see how fast it will actually go. Okay, Hawk?
I'm ready.
So am I. Because I'm like, I love a good fast machine. I used to have a industrial machine. Well, a semi-industrial with an industrial motor. And yeah, that thing could fly. And I'm like, what are the possibilities here? Not with Cuddle. Don't sew fast with Cuddle. But sometimes when you're quilting and you're piecing, sewing fast is kind of fun. All right. So now these are like the stitches that I did along the bottom. I made sure that I had stitched them close. I want to make sure, so this is a good thing about stitching from this side, is I want to make sure that those seams are on the inside of my seam allowance. So as I'm going here, I'm just going to kind of keep an eye, make sure that they're going to stay over there. All right. So if I needed to move over just the tiniest bit, I could. This is just sewing right on top of it. It's all good. All right. So right here, I actually have 4 layers of fabric. Is that right? 3 layers of fabric. 3 layers of fabric that I'm going through. So it's a little, I can feel it kind of, I don't know, bogged down just the tiniest bit. I can feel there's more underneath the foot, and it can feel it. Okay. So when you're doing those thicker seams, make sure that you take your time and really don't try to rush them. Okay. So this, you could see, here's my top stitching. I'll show how not great that is. Okay. So if I were top stitching this on cotton, I would be humiliated and I would take it out. But because we're top stitching on Cuddle, it doesn't matter. So we're just going to let it be there, because from the other side, you'll be able to see, you actually can't see anything, which is the great thing about Cuddle fabrics. Okay, almost there. All right. You ready? Let's see how fast this will go to the end. Oh, I was getting it as fast as it would go. Almost.
Is that all the way over? Oh, okay, that's it.
Just a little bit more. That's interesting, because I was really not pushing hard on the foot, so I was kind of wondering, like, will it go a lot faster? And I bet it would feel a lot faster on cotton.
But that was just, it just chugged right through.
Chugged right through it.
3 layers over there where the pocket was, and
no problem.
Didn't even slow down.
I could feel it like, I could feel like, oh, it's got a little more there, but that's really about it. It didn't slow down at all.
And then you used your left hand to just kind of help.
Make sure that it's going straight.
Gotcha.
Yep. Okay. So we did 2 sides. We're going to pretend that we did all of them. You would stick your hand through the turning hole and pull it all out. We're going to do it the magical way. I'm like, just stick it through the big turning hole on the other side. It's like a gigantic turning hole.
Mind blown.
All right. So now we got 2 sides done. One of the things you can do, what did I do with my stiletto? Do you see it? Oh, okay. It's on the floor. I'm going to use a little pin. I also lost my clover tool, which I saw somewhere, and now I can't find it.
Oh, the hair marker sort of thing?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So I'm just going to use my little pin, pop that out. Okay. Then we can go fluff up all those seams. Okay, so that you'll do that around the blanket. So now, before I usually fluff up all this stuff, because that's what I do when I'm watching TV later, we're going to go ahead and top stitch. So one of the interesting things about this, let's move back to the table so we have some space and I can lay it out, show better. Okay, is we're going to stick this out. So these are the 2 sides that we sewed.
But in theory, all 4 sides are sewn, and you've turned it right side out again.
You cannot see. Those sides may be sewn and you just haven't noticed. Okay, we're going to pretend that all the sides are sewn. I'm going to get the sides nice and even. Here's my pocket. Okay, so I want to make sure that the edges are nice and even, and I'm going to pin a little bit, and then I'm going to clip a little bit. And we're just going to do a tiny bit of top stitching to show you that.
I'm gonna get technical for just a second.
Yeah.
You said it's 3 layers here because it was both layers of the throw and the
1 layer of the throw.
1 layer.
Oh, when we sewed all of them together, it was 4.
It was, and in one place, right? One place
it's actually 5.
5 because of the seam allowance up the center here. There was a one little spot where there was a lot going on.
Yes.
And it just went right through.
It just went right over it. Yep.
Okay.
Yep, totally. Okay, so the weird thing about this one, so if you've made throws before, you know that we put it together and then we turn it and we top stitch it. The reason we top stitch it is to give it some, just hold it together a little better at the edges. Okay, it gives it some definition, I guess, one way of putting it. And that top stitch is important. You do not have to quilt these things ever. And that's a really, really common question is, do I need to quilt it somehow so it will stay together? It will stay together. I promise. Okay, so we're going to stop there, and I'll show you how to do that hand sewing. I just want to show you the corner. Okay, so then I'm going to go ahead. So I got my clips in there, my Wonder clips. I will tell you, make sure that you're using a pin that you can see in the color, because as much as these kind of hide in, it's even worse if you were using, you know, blue pins. So if you're using white, make sure that you're not using white pins, that sort of thing. Okay, so I've got my pins, my clips. Said big jumbo clips.
Yep.
Okay, super great. I think we showed these last time. They have the little marks on the back. We have 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 3/4, and 1 inch marks on them. Okay.
So I can get that into focus. There it is.
Okay. Also, read the package because they tell you stuff on here. It's like, read the manual, you know. All right. So when we do the top stitching on this, we don't top stitch over the pocket. That's really the important part here that I want you to know is we don't top stitch the pocket. We leave that part blank. All right. So it seems a little bit weird, but if you top stitch the pocket, you actually make the pocket smaller, and that doesn't work as well. All right. So I'm going to show you how to do the top stitching. Then I'll show you how to fold this baby up. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing, and I'm just going to find some arbitrary line on here. It should be about 1 inch that we're gonna stitch in. I'm going to do it probably a little bit more because I like where that is, kind of the edge of my black little button thing there.
Is there a maximum that you wouldn't go over as far as like the width of like a top stitch? 2
to 3 inches is really ideal. For this one, 1 inch works fine. That's what we did on the red one, and I'll show you that. This one is a little bit more. I think 1 1/4 is what it is. And it's just easy for me to look at that line while I'm sewing. Oh, I want to up that again for the stitch length. So we upped it to a 4 for the top stitching. Okay. And I'm just going to kind of buzz along here. So I did a little lock stitch right there by the pocket. And then I'm just going to work my way around here. Okay, I'm going to show you a little trick that we haven't done before on the show for corners of throws. And this is just a way that you can do it. You don't have to do it, but you can, okay, to give the little miter at the corner. So we want a little miter look down there. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of eyeball it. It's a little, I can feel it's tucked in there just the tiniest bit. There we go. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball it to where square is, which I think is just a little further up here. So I think that's about where I would pivot. So normally I would pivot this way and I would sew up the side. Oh, just one more little stitch. You can kind of eyeball it there, but not super perfectly. Okay, so that's the corner. So normally I would come here and I would stitch up, but I'm going to show you a little trick that you can do. Is you can turn it here and stitch off the corner and add your miter right now.
Oh, I think a faux miter.
It's a little faux miter. I'm going to take our time over that really thick part because I can't really see where the edge is, and I don't want to stitch off of it and do my lock stitch because then nothing is actually locked. Okay, so I had to wait till get it where I was actually still on the fabric. All right, I'm going to go ahead and lift that off, and there I've got like a little faux miter.
Oh, that's fun.
Okay. What that does is it makes your corners stand up nice and stiff still, so that it gives it a little bit more shape. So a lot of times when we do throws, I'll have them go back and go do that miter. So sew all the way around, pivot, 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 come back, and then do your miters. But if you do it like this, you can kind of do it in one fell swoop. So we want to get back to where we started at that corner. Do a little lock stitch again. And then I'm going to go sew forward and sew that top stitching the rest of the way. So you would do this at each of the corners where you would sew to the corner, find the actual like corner of it, and instead of pivoting toward the next side, you're going to pivot toward the corner. Okay, so this is where my pins are for my my hand sewing.
The turning hole is there.
So I'm gonna pull them back just a little bit because I want to come back to it, but I'm going to stitch past it. People always ask, do you have to hand sew it first? No. You can just make sure that it's held in place. You'll get a better result usually if you hand stitch it first, because then it's really where you need it to be. But you know, sometimes you can be lazy, and that is lazy, not efficient. Sometimes there's a difference. Okay, because then you could just be really lazy, like some people, and just not ever sew it closed.
Because, you know, who cares?
Because who cares? It's your blanket. You do what you want. Okay, so I'm going to take these pins out. See if I can shove
Well,
these
especially
over
after
here.
the top stitching just got done, like this turning hole is only that deep.
Yeah, it's not.
It's
Yeah,
just,
nothing's getting
there's
lost
nothing
in
there.
there.
Yeah.
So that's good. All right. So I did have a needle and thread, and I don't know that I have it here anymore, but I will do that up for us. So here is where it started. I can get that thread. There it is. I'll clip my thread. This is where I started the top stitch. Go all the way to here, turn, pivot, come off, start again, go down the next side. So you can do that down and off on each of those sides. All right. So let's see. There's my thread, but not the needle. Okay.
Want, want.
Want, want. Okay. No pressure. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to double up my thread because I want it to be doubled. And I will give it a little bit of extra strength. Make it a big, ugly knot. Okay, so normally when we're quilting, we want the nicest to smallest knot. When we're sewing with Cuddle, we kind of want a big, ugly one so that it will get stuck in the fabric. If you make a small one, it doesn't get stuck in there very well.
Oh, because the fabric is stretchy.
Yeah, and it just kind of works its way right
pop
through.
Gotcha.
Okay, so I'm going to come up on the outside of my stitching line. So my stitching line is here. You can kind of see it, then it disappears. Here's my other stitching line. So I'm going to come across and go on the other side of that one.
And that L bracket that we sewed in, it took extra time to sew that little L bracket in. It
just
automatically causes the seam allowance to fold in.
Right. So instead of having to do anything, the seam allowance is actually caught in there. And if I just kind of pop it, it's there. So I can try to like make it come out again. But like literally I just
boom. And it just goes right where you want it to.
Where you want it to be. So that works really well. So I'm just going to come across here, do a little ladder stitch. I'm going to grab like 1/4 inch bits because they really can be pretty big stitches here because this one isn't going to get any tugging. If you're doing the same stitch on a stuffed animal, so you're going to close up a stuffed animal, but you're definitely going to do a smaller stitch or do it twice to catch it.
I've definitely seen you go up and then turn it on and then come back again.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
On a stuffy.
And that works pretty darn well. So this one, because this seam isn't really getting any stress, it's fine to do it.
The top stitching will take most of that actually too.
Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
If it does get pulled along that side.
Totally. So I'm going to give this another little tug, and then I'm going to do another little thing. So I'm going to show you how to zigzag it because people always ask. So I'm going to show you the two results. So basically, I just grab along that edge right along the two folds, knot it really good, and I'll stick it in here and pull the thread out somewhere else so that the tail gets hidden in there and I don't accidentally cut the knot when I'm cutting my thread. All right, so there it's in there. So now I got to find it. There it is.
So you just intentionally only did half because
I only did half.
Show us another technique.
Okay. Exactly. So I'm going to show you how to do it. So normally you do it the whole way, but people always want to know if you can just zigzag it, and you can. It's not my favorite, so that's why I don't ever do it.
So we've got four layers to zigzag through.
4 layers, and usually what I need to do, because at this point I can't tell where it started and where it ends because it's just hard. So I know that my zigzag needs to start there and it needs to end right there. Okay, so I'm going to zigzag right along there. I've got this pin in. I want to pin it so that those stitches go inside, so I can't see it. There we go. Okay, so that when I zigzag it, hopefully those stitches are covered. All right, so I got it under there. We're going to switch it back to 5, and that's as wide as I can go, and then we'll do really long. All right, mostly because I just really like the square numbers. Like, that's it. There's no magic to the Y3 and 3 and not 3 and 3.2 or 3.5. I just like the round. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get my zigzag to come over this edge and secure that. I'll take my pin out as it gets closer, and then you just kind of hope for the best. That's really what you're doing. All right, we'll do a little lock stitch. Cut my thread again. And there we go. So this is the end result of the zigzagging. So here is the zigzag, and here is the hand stitching. Yeah, so the hand stitching just melds, but oh, I can totally, like these zigzags on here.
Okay.
It's super obvious to me. So I don't like it, but like I said, totally personal choice. If this doesn't bother you in the least, just fluff these babies up and you are good. All right. Okay, no harm, no foul if you want to just zigzag it shut. It really is up to you. Okay, and in the end, from far away, you don't even have to be on a galloping horse, okay, with that whole quilting thing, like, you know, like, no, you can just really be next to it, like, you know, 10 inches away instead of 3 inches away, and you won't even notice it. All right, so you can feel it because it'll make kind of a hard edge there, but otherwise totally fine. All right, so that's what you're going to do. So you're going to zigzag all the way, or not zigzag, you're going to top stitch all the way around, sew your hole shut or sew the hole shut, do your top stitching, then you're done. Now I want to show you how to fold it up, okay? And then we'll be done.
All right.
All right, so we're going to use the one that is actually complete. All right, so one of the things about this, when you do it with when you do a real Quillow with a quilt that is cotton, it's actually going to like stay in place a lot better because it's stiffer. Cuddle is soft and drapey and yummy, so it does different things. Sorry, I'm standing in front of the window, Hawk. See if we can get the light to be not terrible. Okay, so to get this technically, got to lay it out. So it's really hard to fold this in the air because it's so flip-floppy that you're just like, all right, I'm going to lay it down. So you can just do it on the floor. It doesn't have to be on the table. And we're going to fold it in thirds. Okay. And then we're going to fold it in thirds the other direction. All right. So we fold it one more time. And if I did it right, yes, there is a pocket on the other side. Okay. So here's our pocket that we sewed on. Here's the back seam that we did, the whole thing. I'm going to go in here. And I'm going to grab the corners and flip it. Okay. And then we just kind of push them out, get it all in there nice and flat. And then you've got yourself your little pillow.
I love it.
Okay.
Nice.
All right. Yay!
Yay! Ta-da!
Okay, and now I'll have a red pillow and a blue pillow. So that is how the Quillow works. If you want to make your own, you can watch the video again. You can find the pattern on shannonfabrics.com/blog. On the blog that's all about this show, it'll tell you some more information. It'll give you the things that you need, your notions and all of that good stuff, and the pattern. You can download it. Okay. You can also, when you're finished, go post them over on the I Love Cuddle fabric group. It's super great on Facebook. We just passed the 20,000 mark, which is awesome. I'm so excited. It's really a great group. Somebody posted the other day about how they were so grateful for this group and how wonderful they are to each other. And I was like, yes, I love these people. So please join us there if you are on Facebook. Okay. All right. Do we have winners?
Oh, I'm just going to mention that for all intents and purposes, you are the only moderator on that Facebook group of 20,000 people, and everybody makes their job pretty easy.
It's true. They do. I don't really have to tell anybody like, stop it, be nice. Everybody's just nice. It's great. So
she hasn't had to call in the wolves.
I haven't. No, it's been good. So I appreciate you. All right. Do we have winners for?
We do. All right. We have Mary Ann S on YouTube and Renee MC on Facebook.
There we go. All right. So if you are one of those winners, if you're on Facebook, they should tag you. But if you're one of the winners, you can email us at info@shannonfabrics.com. Send us your mailing address, your phone number, your email, and we will get one of those kits off to you ASAP. So you can sew those up. If you want to make a Quillow, like I said, you can find the pattern. You need 4 yards of fabric. The Coupon code is Jolly. Jolly all caps, or doesn't matter? Doesn't matter. Just be jolly. Go buy some fabric. Make something soft and yummy.
And that's 20% off
It's
today?
20% off today only? Okay.
Yes.
There we go. So there's the deal. So make sure that if you're watching it live, that it's today only.
Thanks, Tava.
Okay.
Thank you. Did you get any answers about that tree skirt? Okay, anybody who wanted to know what was going on back here,
Go watch it.
We'll put it in comments. Comments will show up.
We'll put it in the
with
comments.
information.
We'll post pictures over in I Love Cuddle. It'll all be great. So we will be back. Thank you, Tava, for everything. I really appreciate it. Can we even round of applause to Tava? Thank you. This has been wonderful. I really, really appreciate bookending all of this here. Has been great. We'll be back next week with one more show. We're going to do a recap, and Hawk and I will get to share some of the crazy adventures we have had in the last year on the road. We actually left our apartment in last year, 1 year ago on Thursday. So it's been quite a trip from here to Maine and back. So we're going to have some pictures. We'll have some videos, some fun stuff, some stories, and probably some laughs and surprise and all that good stuff all along the way. That'll be next Tuesday, 10 a.m. Pacific. Right here, and then we'll take a little break over the holidays and come back with some updates about what's happening next year. So Together Tuesday's coming back. Don't you fret. Okay, we're totally doing it. We'll just give you some updates in January and what that is. But follow us next, or come next week and watch, because we're gonna have a lot of fun getting to show some of the crazy stuff that's happened. All right, is there anything else I need to add, Hawk?
That's it.
Is that it? All right, thank you, thank you, thank you to everyone. Happy sewing. Oh, I'm gonna get.
Oh, you're gonna cry.